Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the Bastyr University, California's Nutrition Programs webinar. My name is Terrance Peterson and I'm an admission advisor at Bastyr University, California. I'm joined by Dr. Neal Malik. He is located at our San Diego location. He is the department chair and assistant professor of the Nutrition and Basic Science courses here at Bastyr University. Before I turn it over to Dr. Malik, I would like to outline an agenda for today's webinar. First, Dr. Malik is going to walk you through a PowerPoint presentation on the program and its features. Then I'm going to come back on and talk to you about the admissions requirements and how to qualify for the program. And then finally, we'll welcome your questions. So please ask as many as you'd like. We want to make sure that this program is the right fit for you, and Bastyr University will help you reach your education and career goals. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Dr. Malik to get us started. Good morning, Dr. Malik.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Terrance. Appreciate the introduction, and thank you for attending. So, as Terrance mentioned, I wanted to be sure we discuss both of our nutrition programs down here at our San Diego, California campus. So here is, of course, our team, as Terrance mentioned. Here are our email addresses. Feel free to contact either one of us directly, and we can answer your questions should you have any after this webinar. So, without further ado, let me start by first saying, did you know most chronic diseases are actually preventable? So what I mean by chronic diseases are things like heart disease, stroke, cancer. Most people think, in my experience, cancer is bad luck or it's just genetic. That's not true. In fact, what we know is following what we call a quote unquote healthy lifestyle can actually prevent cancer, can prevent heart disease, stroke. And these are the three leading killers in the United States. That's why I keep mentioning those three specifically. So what does a healthy lifestyle really mean? Well, it means eating, well, a balanced diet, but what does that mean? I'm going to go into that a little bit. Participating in regular physical activity. Well, what's regular? Managing stress. If a person does these three things, they can actually reduce their risk for most chronic disease. But here's the problem. Education isn't enough. Just telling people, here, eat this, or just work out more. Those aren't enough to get people to actually change their behavior. And in my experience, I would hear patients tell me things like, okay, I know what I should be doing, but what specifically would you recommend I eat? Which foods do you recommend? Hey, do you have any recipes that are tasty and cheap? Or I'll get questions like, I heard high intensity exercise is better. What's the truth? I know what I should be doing. I just don't know how to do it. These are things I commonly hear when I work with folks. And so you'll see we took these ideas and basically created these programs. Now bear with me here for a second. This is a picture of Marilyn Walls savant, who is in the Guinness Book of World Records for having one of the highest IQs known to mankind. And again, this is a long statement, long question, long answer, but I promise I'm getting somewhere with this. So sit tight. Here's the question somebody asked Marilyn. I know a medical doctor whose wife smokes a lot. Every time I see her in her yard, on her deck, in her car, or on a parking lot, she's smoking. In fact, I don't recall ever seeing her not smoking when she's not inside a building. I visited this doctor as a patient, and he has told me not to smoke, but I never have. What's your opinion of a doctor who tells his patients not to smoke, but who tolerates his own spouse's smoking habit? Marilyn has a lovely response, of course, but here's the part I want to highlight. Doctors have more than enough work to do treating health problems that have nothing to do with a patient's bad choices. They hate treating lifestyle diseases. Okay, so if the smartest person on earth is saying doctors don't like treating lifestyle disease, who's going to help these people? That's where hopefully our students, our graduates, come in. And in fact, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics agrees with Marilyn. They say there's probably going to be a shift, and we're actually seeing it now, in the healthcare system so that we focus on predicting and preventing disease as opposed to treating it after it sets in. So why would we at Bastyr be qualified to do this? Why would our graduates be able to do this? Well, first, I want to kind of highlight our mission as a university. We educate future leaders in the natural health arts and sciences. We respect the healing power of nature and recognize that body, mind, and spirit are intrinsically inseparable. We model an integrated approach to education, research, and clinical service. Okay, that's all well and good, but let's get a little bit more specific. In the Department of Nutrition and Exercise Science, or in our case in San Diego, Nutrition and Basic Sciences, we promote well-being through food and activity. So again, those two things come up: diet or balanced eating and regular exercise. We acknowledge both are important. And at the same time, we want to make sure that the food nourishes and sustains the individual, the community, and the earth. So sustainability, those kinds of things, farm to table, those come up in our curriculum, as you'll soon see. Both our Bachelor of Science in Nutrition and our Master of Science in Nutrition programs were originally established in 1984 and were fully accredited in 1989. This is the most important thing. When you're looking at a university, make sure that they have regional accreditation, which we do have and have had since the 80s. So therefore, we have maintained our accreditation with the Northwest Association of Colleges and Universities ever since. Our nutrition programs are thus backed by a 25-year foundation of accreditation and meet high-quality educational standards. So yes, we are a nonprofit university, but we are legit. We have our accreditation and we are well respected in the field. In fact, I recently bumped into this. We were listed as one of the top nutrition graduate programs in North America, but we are also, of course, recognized for our undergraduate degrees as well. So moving forward with this idea that, okay, folks probably know they should need to eat more vegetables and exercise more, but how do we get them to do that? Folks will often turn to the web for advice. And if you Google nutrition, if you just Googled that term, you would get about 630 million results in less than 1 second. Now, that's going to be overwhelming for folks, especially when these buzzwords start popping up. Food and mood, vegan, raw, superfoods, immune boosters, whole food, organic, gluten-free, local, low fat, low carb, paleo. How can we possibly expect people to make sense of all of this stuff? It's very challenging, that's what I'll tell you. And so we need more professionals in the field to be able to draw the line between food and nutrition information versus misinformation. So we want to make sure our graduates understand what are the real data behind each of these kind of buzzwords. Are there research studies to back up some of these claims? So along with being able to parse through nutrition information, we both our program, or all of our nutrition programs, I should say, follow this idea of whole food nutrition. That's kind of a buzzword that comes up. If you were to Google nutrition, whole food will come up. But here's how we define it at Bastyr. We take this from one of our former professors, Cynthia Lair, who's pictured here at the bottom. She wrote a book called Feeding the Whole Family. And she says, if you want to really define a whole food, you need to ask yourself these 5 questions. And again, this is the approach we take in all of our culinary courses here at Bastyr. Can I imagine that food growing? 2, what has been done to the food since it was harvested? Think processing. 3, how many ingredients does that food have? Now take a second and look at this. This is an actual list of ingredients on a packaged food product. Those are a lot of ingredients. And ingredients are listed by weight. So the very first ingredient listed is what the product is made mostly of. The second ingredient listed is what the product is made second most of by weight. The last ingredient is what it's made least of. So if you take a look at this, can you guess what food we're looking at here just by looking at the ingredients? It's actually a frozen quesadilla. Frozen quesadilla, and it has all of these ingredients. So what I often tell clients and patients is, well, look for a product with 5 or few ingredients. Because if there's any more than 5, well, then you're probably getting a lot of extra preservatives and additives that your body probably doesn't need. So that's question number 3. How many ingredients does it have? Question 4. Is this product part of a food or is it the whole entity? And 5. How long has the food been known to nourish human beings? Now, sometimes students interpret this that we follow a paleo style of diet. No, not at all. This is more general in the sense that are there new foods that are being processed, that are being created in the lab? How does that compare to something that we've been eating for thousands of years? So it's not paleo per se, but it's just, again, looking at foods from a different perspective. We actually talk about all sorts of diets in this program. We want to make sure our students are educated with regards to paleo, keto, vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean, DASH, mind. There's a mind diet now. We want our students to know all of those things so that they have all the tools necessary to be the best educators and counselors. So really what we're talking about with regards to whole foods is, of course, things like this. But the problem is, if you were to speak to a client or a patient, what you're going to find is that they consume mostly this, processed foods. And they're going to be really resistant when you try and tell them, look, I need you to eat more fruits and vegetables. They're going to be like, yeah, no, duh. I've heard this from my doctor and other nutrition professionals. Tell me something I don't know. Well, here is where we can break through that wall of resistance. Folks are going to be mostly eating these foods. So how are we going to get them to eat more like this? Well, we focus on a meet the person where they are approach. So let me show you what I mean by this slide. Let's say the only thing a person will consume that's close to an apple is one of these on the right, one of these fruit roll-up type apple flavored bars. That's the closest thing to an apple they'll consume. Instead of saying, whoa, 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 get rid of those, you cannot have those anymore, what we say is meet the person where they are. Let's acknowledge that they consume this high sugar, full of preservatives, apple flavored bar. And let's see if we can gently guide them to maybe trying one of these Nutri-Grain apple flavored bars instead. It's still sweet, it can be still satisfying, but it's a little bit better, we could agree, than this fruit roll-up. Okay, the person says, yeah, I'm willing to try it. Hey, that wasn't so bad. I actually didn't mind switching to that. Then, once they have tried this and like it, we can say, hey, you liked my last suggestion. What do you think about trying some apple juice? And then maybe it's not the full 100% apple juice. Maybe we compromise and give them the sweetened one. But then we gradually move them to 100% juice. Then, hey, the apple juice wasn't so bad. How would you feel about trying some applesauce? Well, maybe we give them the artificially sweetened applesauce first, then we can go to maybe the Trader Joe's all natural one. And then, well, you tried applesauce and you tried basically the unsweetened variety. How about we move on to a whole apple? So we found, and I have found, and research is finding, that this method works better. So when you're trying to get people to change their behavior for a lifetime, to change their lifestyle, this is the approach you need to take. So with all of our nutrition programs, we help our students find that middle ground. We meet them where they are. We also try and challenge health beliefs that are not supported by science. That's why I keep saying, what does the data say? Does research back up any of these claims? What does the research say about paleo and keto and low carb and high fat? And we acknowledge that there's no one way to nourish. We don't, this is the only way you can eat. We say there are many ways you can be healthy and nourish your body. We want to make sure students have that knowledge. So let me get more specific with regards to each program. So beginning with the Bachelor of Science and Culinary Arts, some of the key features. If we think about why this program was even created, why do we offer something like this? Well, in the past, there's always been this separation with calculated healthy eating, the column on the left, and sensory pleasurable eating on the right, meaning these were taken as two separate things. So we have this idea of calculated healthy eating that's often used in hospitals and in schools and other large companies where this meal has to meet a certain percentage of the calorie requirement for the day. It has to have one serving of carbohydrate, one serving of protein, one serving, blah, blah, blah. So food decisions have been based on calories and amounts of certain nutrients. Now these are considered good for you because we're getting it down to the science. We've got it down to the percentage of macro and micronutrients. But it doesn't mean just because the food is meeting these macro and micronutrient requirements, that's going to taste good. If you think back to school meals, maybe when you were growing up, probably not the tastiest meals you've ever had. Then on the other side of the coin, we've got sensory, pleasurable eating, which is used in fine restaurants. Foodies often blog about these types of things. Magazines feature these wonderful, beautiful recipes. And food decisions are based on fresh, high quality products with depth of flavor and look good. But why do these have to be separate? That's what we asked ourselves. Why can't we meld these two where a person gets macro and micronutrients in sufficient quantities and, wow, the food tastes good? Who would have thought? So we combined these two concepts. Why can't we create an apple, turn it into something that's delicious, visually appealing, and yet is still nutritious for you? That's where this program comes into play. So this Bachelor of Science with a major in Nutrition and Culinary Arts degree incorporates concepts of seed to table, which incorporates food, where it's sourced, how it got to us, and how to cook it. Plus, we go into the biochemistry. Well, why are these nutrients important? Why is this food important for health and preventing disease? So we include courses on the therapeutic aspect of food and eating, along with incorporating valuable skills like public speaking, how to start your own business, writing, and practicum classes. Now, notice this is a Bachelor of Science degree. This is not a Bachelor of Arts degree, which means there's a heavy, heavy emphasis on knowing the science. That means we place a strong emphasis in chemistry to understand the mechanisms. Why is vitamin C so important? Well, you'll go down to the cellular level to understand why. So all of our programs, as far as the bachelor programs, are 2-year completion programs. And Terrance will mention a little bit more about this shortly. But basically, our program, when you come to us after completing 2 years of college somewhere else, we're going to take your science a little bit further. And we'll have an organic chemistry class for you, a biochemistry class, anatomy and physiology, and then we start getting into, during your 4th year, some of these hardcore nutrition courses. Now, a special note here, and Terrance will mention this as well, if you know, okay, I want to finish my bachelor's and I want to go into graduate school and get my master's of science degree, you're going to want to talk to your advisor soon before you complete some of these courses, because we want to make sure you get credit for some of these courses in your master's program. So what do the courses actually look like? First year courses include whole foods production, where you basically go into our nutrition kitchen lab. You're actually in a kitchen with your fellow classmates and create food. You create recipes, you taste them, you dine together at the end of class, and you talk about the food. Chef's pantry. How do you forecast? What supplies, what foods should you keep in your pantry, and what are safe to keep in storage for longer periods of time? Which ones did you want to throw out? Those kinds of things you'll learn about. Culinary Arts 1 and 2, where you'll learn how to create soups and seasonings, and then suppers and desserts. Foods that are nutritious as well as visually appealing and tasty. Then you'll take courses on cultural perspectives on food, because we're here in the United States, especially, and in Southern California, we're full of different cultures. We have lots and lots of cultures here, and it's important to be culturally sensitive. You can't tell someone whose family has been maybe eating a certain way for thousands of years to just start eating like the USDA My Plate. That's not going to land all that well. So we have to be able to understand, well, what could we substitute? What culturally sensitive foods are there that we could use instead? You'll take a course on nutrition through the life cycle, introduction to experimental foods, and food science. Then the second year courses will get into advanced nutrition. That's where you get into the more mechanistic things about nutrition and how certain nutrients react inside the body. You'll take courses on therapeutic cooking. So cooking for various disease states. Cooking demonstration. How can you talk and cook and educate all at the same time? You'll get practice with that. Maybe you want to create a food blog, so we have a course on food and health. Then you'll have a course on, well, what if you want to start a business? The business of cooking. Quantity food production. What if you want to incorporate catering at some point or large scale food production into your practice at some point? That's where you'll learn about it in quantity food production. Ecological aspects of nutrition. Again, kind of the environmental and sustainability side of things. So the one thing I want to be sure I'm clear about is this is not a registered dietitian credentialing program. This is because this program focuses instead on culinary arts. So you'll get this pretty much the same level of science that a registered dietitian nutritionist would get at a bachelor's level. But instead of going into clinical nutrition, this program deviates and you get into the culinary side of nutrition. And I'm a dietitian myself. What I can tell you is we do not get a whole lot of education when it comes to food. And so here, there's really no scope of practice, which really allows anyone at a bachelor's level to do one-on-one nutrition counseling. So if you want to be the person to see patients and you want to counsel them on how to help them get off their diabetes medications, this probably wouldn't be the program for you. And in fact, if you even want to do that, you need a master's level degree or higher to get to do that. So that's what this slide is saying. So, well, what opportunities are there for you? If you were to get this degree, what career options are there? And that's what this slide is about. So graduates with this degree, again, cannot provide nutrition counseling for someone with diabetes. Really no bachelor's in nutrition graduate, no matter what school you go to, no matter what program you're in, will allow you to do this. But a graduate with this degree, with a nutrition and culinary arts degree, can prepare meals for someone with diabetes. They could be their personal chef, or you could teach cooking classes that support diabetes management. Those are the kinds of things our graduates tend to do. And in fact, here are some of the things that graduates from this program have done. They become personal chefs, they become caterers, but again, with maybe a local and whole food emphasis. Maybe they focus on certain diseases and say, look, this will help potentially prevent heart disease, for example. They've become sous chefs in schools, cooking class teachers, food startup and food startup consultations, and many go on to pursue graduate school. So that, in a nutshell, is the Bachelor of Science in Nutrition and Culinary Arts degree. What about the master's degree? This one there is some overlap between both degrees, but and so you'll notice this is called Nutrition for Wellness, and I'll explain what that means. Now, like I said, the bachelor's degree does not create dietitians. I'll say this right up front as well. Our master's degree does not create dietitians either. So before you disconnect and run for the hills, let me explain why that is, especially with our master's degree. This is a quote from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. They say the annual demand for dietetic services, so basically dietitian services, will outstrip the supply of credentialed dietetic practitioners throughout the decade, so that by the year 2020, a projected shortfall of approximately 18,000 full-time workers may exist. What they're saying is we cannot create enough dietitians fast enough, but yet people want to know this information. They want to know, what should I be eating and how should I change my lifestyle? And in fact, I have a little note here at the bottom. Beginning in the year 2024, you won't be able to sit to become a dietitian unless you have a master's degree. So we're going to have this shortfall of we don't have enough dietitians. And at the same time, as I mentioned before, dietitians don't understand necessarily food and how to create tasty, nutritious recipes. So who's going to help these folks? That's where graduates of potentially the master's program in Nutrition for Wellness will come in. So potentially you. So in a nutshell, this program also features whole foods as the foundation. So the bachelor's program, we use the same concept of how long has this food been known to nourish human beings? How many ingredients does it have? What's been done to the food since it was harvested, etc. We all focus on research. What does the data say? But not just what does the data in general, what did it study? So you'll take research methods with me specifically, and we talk about This study says one thing, another study says another. Which one is the more well-designed study? Which can we believe? We also focus on creating effective food and nutrition information communication streams as a route to wellness. What I've learned in my experience is folks don't want to be talked over, meaning when you're meeting with a patient, they actually don't want to hear you use fancy words. I know you're going to want to use them because you have all this wonderful knowledge in your mind and you can't wait to share it, but you're actually going to create some resistance if you start talking in this kind of scientific tone. So instead, what we need to do is get all that wonderful information in your head, but create it and market it in such a way that the message lands, that a person with a sixth grade level of education can understand. Like I said, this is a nutrition for wellness degree. And so when we think about wellness and what that term really means, it not only includes nutrition, but it includes other aspects of lifestyle, like fitness. In my experience, most folks assume if you know nutrition, you know exercise science. And so I want to make sure my graduates know exercise science. And so one of the courses you'll take with me is going to train you to become a personal trainer through one of the most respected agencies out there, the American College of Sports Medicine, so that you'll be a nutrition and fitness expert, which is really, again, what wellness is all about. And lastly, I'm going to repeat myself. This does not prepare you to become registered dietitians. So neither program, the bachelor's or the master's here in San Diego, train you to become a registered dietitian. But we do have that program up at our Kenmore campus. So if you're interested in becoming a dietitian, we do have that program up in Kenmore, Washington, and it's the MSNDPD program. So what does the master's level curriculum look like? You'll take a class on disease prevention because we need to know the pathology of disease. What what are the mechanisms behind it? Then you'll take a separate courses in advanced nutrition. You'll talk about the macro and micronutrients at the biochemistry level, and then you'll take a third class on nutrigenomics and the microbiome, which is fairly new, but Bastyr actually has been talking about this since the 80s. So you'll have a course just on nutrigenomics and the microbiome. You also take a class, like I said, on research methods. You'll also take classes in whole foods production. So you'll have that culinary emphasis too. So you'll be able to talk about food. You'll have a course with me on fundamentals of motivation and behavior change. You'll spend time learning about how to deliver messages to the lay public. How are you going to get them motivated to change their habits? That's what we talk about in that course. You'll take a course in writing about food and nutrition. And again, a physical activity for health class where I'll train you to be a personal trainer through the American College of Sports Medicine. Year two, now we start applying some of this knowledge. You'll take a therapeutic cooking series. So how do you cook for folks with underlying conditions? You'll take a class just like the bachelor students on cooking demonstration. I'm super jealous of my students because they get to take a class on nutrition supplementation. I'm a dietitian and I never had a class on nutrition supplementation, believe it or not. So I'm super jealous that my students get to take that. You'll take a series of courses, I should say, on how to develop and evaluate nutrition education programs. What you'll essentially do in your year two is take all of your information, all of this knowledge that you have, and go out into the community and create something. You'll actually, under the guise of your faculty, me and some of your other core faculty, you go out there and you create a nutrition education program for the public. I'm so excited about this opportunity. I'm stumbling over myself. It's a fascinating experience. Students love it. And so that's where the development and evaluation of education programs and the capstone series, those kind of overlap. That's what those courses are all about. Then in your final quarter with us in year two, you take a course in leadership and business management in case, again, you want to start your own business. Whew, I've been talking a lot. So I'm going to turn it back over to Terrance, and he's going to talk about prerequisite requirements and how the admissions process works. And then I'll come back and talk about, will there be jobs for you when you're done? So Terrance, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Malik. Appreciate that. So let's get started, and I'm going to go through what is the admissions process and some of the prerequisite requirements for our programs here at Bastyr, California. Let's go to the next slide. Dr. Malik, the next slide. Okay. All right. For the Bachelors of Science in Nutrition and Culinary Arts, you'll see here that students entering this program should have a GPA of a 2.5 with a C or higher in all their basic proficiency and science requirements. Now, if students don't, meet that grade point average, please don't count yourself out. Feel free to reach out to an advisor, and what we can do is we can do a review of transcripts and maybe offer some recommendations for courses that you can take to boost that GPA up. Yeah, please reach out to us for an advising appointment, and we can definitely give you, a good direction in terms of coursework that you can complete to have the strongest application possible. Before enrolling, students have to complete 90 quarter hours, 60 semester credits in the basic proficiency and science requirements, and then also to the general education requirements. That's going to be on the next slide here. And you can apply to the program while you're still completing some of your prerequisite courses. So before you make application, also to feel free to reach out to an advisor. Here we see a really good list of those two categories. For the basic proficiency and science requirements, you'll need 9 quarter credits of English or composition, psychology, public speaking, college algebra or statistics, general chemistry survey level, and then general cell biology science major. Both of those science courses need to have a lab. And then introductory nutrition. Now, in the course description that you'll want to take note of is that the course needs to include macro, micronutrients, life cycle, physical activity. So this is also a good opportunity to send that information over to an advisor to review, just to make sure that you have the right nutrition, chemistry, and biology courses, before you apply or before you enroll, to make sure that those courses do qualify for this program here. And then finally, also to the general education requirement, 60 credit hours, from these categories in natural science, arts and humanities, social science, and electives. And we have a good breakdown of specifically what those courses are. So just another opportunity to reach out to your advisor to figure out specifically if you have the right amount of units. Here is a resource that we refer to our students that will really help them out just in terms of coursework that is the Prerequisite Equivalency and Transfer Guide. And students that are attending community college or state schools in Washington, Oregon, and California can take a look at this list by choosing what program they're interested in, the drop-down location, any one of those schools. Go to our next slide, and you'll see here, this will give you a breakdown to find if you have the right courses. On the left-hand side, you'll select the school in alphabetical order, and then moving to the right side, you'll see the required courses in math, nutrition, biochemistry, chemistry, physiology, psychology, and the other courses there. And you can see what those corresponding courses at the school that you've chosen, what they are and what will count, for our program here. Now, for the Masters of Science in Nutrition for Wellness program, we are looking for a 3.25 GPA with a B or better in organic chemistry, physiology, and biochemistry. Again, too, is that if you don't have that specific GPA requirement, don't get discouraged. Feel free to reach out to your advisor and we can make recommendations. And then here also too are the requirements for a strong application, a complete application, an essay, 2 letters of recommendation, 1 academic, 1 professional, official transcripts from all the schools that you have attended, a resume, and an application fee. Now, just a side note, if you do an advising appointment or if you come to one of our open house events, we will waive your application fee. And then finally, what's most important, experience and awareness in your field. And you'll be able to write to that in the personal narrative statement, your essay. And then for the prerequisites, you'll see here, this is about 8 of them all together. Introductory nutrition and the same requirements, macro, micronutrients, life cycle, physical activity, college algebra, pre-calculus or calculus, or also 2 statistics will be accepted. 3 courses of chemistry, so chemistry 1 and 2, and organic chemistry. All those courses need to be science major level courses with a lab. Biochemistry needs to be upper division, meaning 300 level or above. And then a physiology, or you can have an anatomy and physiology series with a B or better, and then psychology. And then some tips for our students when applying to you can apply to the program while your prerequisites are still in progress. You will not be admitted to the program, and you can be admitted to the program with 3 prerequisites outstanding. And then make sure that your science courses are within our 7-year window. If outside of the 7-year window, you don't have to take them all over again. What we can do is upon a transcript review, we can see if we can offer some recommendations for refresher coursework. If you don't come from a science background, which a lot of our student population does not, it's okay. We'll accept a bachelor's degree for the nutrition and wellness program, from a regionally accredited school. So in regards to taking those prerequisites, it might take some time to complete those. So just go at a comfortable pace and make sure that you plan ahead. And then some of the prerequisites can be completed at our post-bac program up in Seattle. And some of the science courses are required before entering that program. So just be aware of that. And then here's some tips on the chemistry. Chemistry is very challenging, so allow enough time to complete that. In some instances, there will be some prerequisite courses that need to be taken before you get into the science courses. So just be aware of that. It might take a few years to complete. And then here's the series, general chemistry, organic chemistry, and biochemistry. And then here's our prerequisite equivalency transfer guide for the MSNW program. And the same rules apply here, is that you'll choose the state and then the program that you're interested. And then here, the students will see the drop down. The school of your choosing, it'll just go in alphabetical order. And then moving to the right, you'll see what those courses are at that school, what will count for prerequisite credit here at Bastyr, University, California. And then just be aware of some timelines, some priority deadlines. to be mindful of. You want to get your application in before the February 1st priority deadline. That's good to note because it'll put, when you submit your application in by that time, you qualify for Bastyr University merit scholarships. And those scholarships can be anywhere from $1,000 to in some instances, $5,000 a scholarship for your program. The April 15th deadline is just a natural financial aid application deadline. And then early July is when our summer classes begin. The biochemistry course is offered here at our San Diego campus. So if you're interested in taking, or if you need to take biochemistry and you'd like to do that here at our campus, that is available to you. And then orientation starts for our new students in September. And then our fall quarter starts, I believe, the second or third week in September. And then just some additional resources that will serve you. If you ever need to make an advising appointment, this is a general email address and phone number that you can utilize to get in contact with one of the advisors here at our school. For financial aid questions, the general email address. And then a really good opportunity if you are in the San Diego area, November 3rd, we have an event, Experience Bastyr. It's on a Saturday from 10 to 3, and students really do, enjoy this opportunity to be a part of a PowerPoint presentation, kind of similar to what you've seen today, a question and answer session, and then in the Nutrition Skills Lab, there will be a cooking demonstration. So just a really good opportunity to be, within a group of like-minded prospective students and to see our campus in full swing. And for any general information, feel free to take a look at the Bastyr University website for any other questions that you might have here at our school. Okay, so Dr. Malik, I think this is your turn.
It is. So back to me. Thank you, Terrance. And I would agree that our Experience Bastyr events, that'll be Saturday, November 3rd, are always a great time, and you get to meet your faculty, myself, and some of the other core faculty who teach in both programs. And again, it's different with a different dynamic when you're in a group of like-minded students. So if you're in the San Diego area, come on by. We'll be there. So who should apply? Who are we really looking for when it comes to selecting students and admitting students? So I wanted to talk a little bit about this and see if any of these ring true for you. So who should apply to our bachelor's or master's level programs, especially with nutrition? Well, those that have a passion for food and nutrition. If you want to know the truth about food and nutrition science, remember, you Google nutrition, you're going to come up with a lot of buzzwords, but a lot of those things, those articles are going to be myths. So we want to make sure you know how to parse through that information. If you want to effectively share your knowledge with others and to support nourishment and wellness and a healthy lifestyle in others, then these programs are for you. If you want to prevent disease through lifestyle, if you want to catch those folks who maybe don't have a disease yet, but they're on the cusp, it's maybe gonna happen if they don't do something soon. If that gets you excited, then think about applying to our programs. If you want to feel supported by your administrators, faculty, and staff, we are a smaller university and we pride ourselves on that. My students have my cell phone number. That's just how it goes. We are a smaller community, and that means our students know us very well. And that makes for richer letters of recommendation when you decide to move on to your career. We know our students on that level, and that's just how we operate. If you want to cook, create, and inspire others to be well, then definitely consider this program. Now, I know the prerequisites can be daunting. I'll tell you a brief story about me. I failed chemistry in college, flunked it completely. And I thought, well, forget that. I'm not built for these kinds of sciences. So I actually was a psychology major as an undergrad. But after I graduated with that degree, nutrition kept calling me. It didn't help that I was diagnosed with a chronic disease either. And so that kind of propelled me into learning more about nutrition and lifestyle and exercise and how they can help me feel better. And I found myself reading nutrition textbooks for fun before bed. And so at that point, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just reconsider and pursue a degree in nutrition. And so I actually went back. I graduated with a bachelor's, but I went back to the community college and to a community college and took high school chemistry over again and started from there and then took the general chemistry one series and then organic chemistry and then biochemistry. So I get it. If you don't have a background in science, it's okay. If this is what you want to do, it's worth it. Take it from me. All right. So will there be jobs for you? Of course, you're going to wonder that. And at some point, I realized that, I keep seeing all these job opportunities that I think would be perfect for our graduates. So I'm going to show you something that I created. But when we look at the predictions from other resources, not just me, dietitians and nutritionists were in the top 25 as best jobs for millennials, according to Money Magazine. This was in 2015. And the expected job growth is 21% over the next 7 years. And actually, that piece of data, that growth of 21%, came from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So here's what I actually created for our students. I'm a member of a number of different listservs. I have a number of contacts who are leaders in the field, and they'll send me opportunities. And so I just started collecting them. And what you're seeing is a screenshot of a Moodle page I created for our students that they can access at any time. And as you'll see, is all of these job opportunities that I feel our students would be perfect for based on the job descriptions, I've just added to this Moodle page. And these aren't the only jobs. It continues to here and here. This list just kept growing. And I'm going to be honest, these are only jobs that are in the southwest region of the United States. This doesn't include anything outside of that area, really. There are a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, this is just the southwest United States. I haven't included really anything else. And so there are jobs out there. And in fact, what's really promising is big, large, well-respected schools like Harvard are coming around to this idea of emphasizing nutrition science, but combining that with culinary arts. And so what you're seeing here is teaching kitchens are growing and becoming more popular. And so what we're seeing, this article, I just highlighted a couple things here, that a cooking laboratory that combines culinary instruction using healthful whole ingredients, whole food, nutrition education, exercise, mindfulness, and personalized health coaching is the way to go. And this is Harvard that's saying it. We've been doing this at Bastyr since we started. And so if Harvard's doing it, people are going to follow. This is going to become a bigger thing. And again, we've already been doing it. We've been training our students to do this. And here you're actually seeing a picture of the individual in the center here with a Bastyr apron, Fernanda Larson. She's actually one of our core faculty, and she teaches many of the culinary courses in both programs, the bachelor's and master's here in San Diego. And she was featured on television. So she has her master's degree ultimately in nutrition, and she is not a registered dietitian, but she has 5 jobs when she's out there working. She not only works for us, but she has her own businesses on the side. And she's kind of a big deal down here in San Diego. And here again, she was featured on television as part of Healthy Lunch Day along with the American Diabetes Association. And so this individual on the right side was a representative for the San Diego chapter of the American Diabetes Association. And then we have another one of our graduates. This is a Bastyr graduate, Lisa Schmidt. She founded her own company, Mindful Benefits, and she provides cooking demonstrations. She provides consulting services to organizations. She does many, many things. And again, she is a Bastyr grad and she doesn't have that registered dietitian nutritionist degree. And I know, again, I keep referring to that because remember, our programs don't create dietitians, but I don't want you to feel like there aren't any opportunities, that you have to be a dietitian to get any kind of nutrition job. Here's another example. Leslie Rose, not a dietitian, but was named Best Nutritionist in the Twin Cities, also a graduate of Bastyr. She founded her own company, Perfectly Produce, and which launches a line of breakfast bars. She's authored a line of seasonal meal planning books. And here's a quote from her with regards to her education at Bastyr. She came in thinking, I mostly need the credential, but I'm so grateful for how humbling school was in awakening me to how vast health and the body are. I have medical doctors as clients now, and I have the confidence to treat them because of the science foundation in my nutrition studies. A couple of other graduates, Marilyn Walls and Nick Rose, both are nutrition educators up in Washington. And Marilyn was quoted as saying, it is nearly impossible to quantify the role of my education in Bastyr in my life trajectory. First, it gave me credibility in the larger world. The classes and professors gave me not only basic knowledge, but also a cutting edge awareness of nutrition and its inherent changes. A nutritionist needs the tools to keep up with this evolving information and environment. And lastly, Sherry Callum, who's known as the Juice Lady, she's authored 10 books, has had many television experiences. I think her biography officially says thousands of television appearances, and has worked with George Foreman. And she said being a student at Bastyr was such a positive experience. I learned so much, and it launched me into this incredible career. And Jeff Johnson, also a graduate of Bastyr, he was a former senior director of natural health and new ventures at Kashi. And really, if you have tried any Kashi product over the last 10 years, Jeff Johnson probably had something to do with it. He said, when you're at Bastyr, you're deeply immersed in natural health, which is an essential foundation. So again, if this kind of gets you excited and you want to be a part of our community, consider this program. I always encourage students to look at other programs, look at the course descriptions. This is the best piece of advice I can give you. Compare our programs to others that you're interested in. It's a big decision, I know. It's a lot of money, it's a lot of time. If you're stuck and you're not sure which path to follow, look at the curriculum, which courses you'll take, and then read up that one paragraph description of each course. And as you're reading those course descriptions, does it get you excited? Do you think, oh, I can't wait to learn this. I can't wait to be in this class. Okay, then consider our program. If, as you're reading the courses and the course descriptions, you say, it's not quite what I'm looking for, then this may not be the place for you, and that's okay. But the last thing I want is an unhappy student. So please explore, take your time, but we're here for you. All right, I think it's time for Q&A. I think I went a little bit over time, but I want to be sure to get to your questions. So Terrance, do we have any questions?
Absolutely. We have a few here, and I'll just go ahead and field them to you. So one student asks, how much of the program is online and how much of the program is in the classroom? If you could speak a little bit to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've learned is that we started offering online and hybrid courses, but the students actually said, you know what, we prefer just being in class with you and being in class with the faculty and our cohort. So can we have more time in class? So there are components where, of course, we use the learning management system and we deliver lots of resources online. Um, but I would say on average, you'll get maybe one or two courses per academic year that are hybrid or completely online. So it's not many, it's a smaller component of the program.
All right, thank you for that. And then another student asks, can I work during the program?
Yes, we do have students that work. There are students that go full time, and this is in the master's and bachelor's programs where they'll go full time and work part time. Those students that want to still um, be sure that they get enough salary by working full time, they can go to school part-time. So we do have part-time options in case the work schedule is something that you really would need to prioritize. So that's something that we would create on an individual basis, and that'd be something you would work with your academic advisor with planning out. But we do have a part-time option for our programs.
All right, great. And then Abigail has two questions. She wants to know how much of the master's program is focused on disease and using food as medicine.
Yeah, so I would say a pretty decent chunk of it. So we always want to, of course, make sure that we're careful with what we recommend and what the data says. So there are, of course, certain conditions like high blood pressure, for example, where lifestyle with nutrition, appropriate physical activity can reverse or seem to reverse that condition. And so prescribing the right kinds of foods would be very, very important. And so I would say understanding that pathology and understanding which foods we would recommend for someone like that, I would say it's a pretty pretty large component of our program.
All right, and then another question that she has, is there any aspect of the master's program that overlaps with the naturopathic medicine program?
Um, Not so much, no. The naturopathic medicine program essentially trains students to become physicians, and so there's a very clinical approach to that program. Our program, on the other hand, is not as clinical, is not as clinically focused, but more again on the education side, along the culinary side. So there isn't much overlap. The one exception would be if students, let's say, come in and they waive a course or two. They could take some naturopathic medicine courses as electives. So for example, I've had a student who's taken a botanical medicine course as an elective. Even though they were in my nutrition program, they were able to take that as an elective. So that would be kind of the way to incorporate some of the naturopathic medicine curriculum into the coursework, but otherwise, for the most part, no.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Malik. And so maybe what you can do is if you'd like to give out your email address for any other questions directly, if you'd like to do that now.
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, what I'll probably do is I'm going to go back to our introductory slide. And
Okay.
so in case, this is going to move very fast, in
Mhm.
case you can't quite hear me as clearly, you can see what both our email addresses are. So give me one moment. They're here in the beginning. And yes, you can contact me anytime directly. That's perfectly fine if you have other questions. And I know, Terrance, you've been wonderful about helping students navigate all of this as well. Here we
Thank you.
go.
Yep.
So feel free to reach out to me, of course, or Terrance directly at our email addresses here.
Yep. If you have any really in-depth, program questions, feel free to reach out to Dr. Malik, or here's my contact information for any questions about the application, frequently asked questions that prospective students have. We'll love to help you out, with that information. So that is all our time for today. Thank you, Dr. Malik, for your presentation, and thank you, prospective students, for your time and attention for our webinar.
Thank you.
You guys have a good day.